Hi everyone, welcome to today's seminar with Jaya Ramchandani. We're just going to do a little introduction. So we are Lumen Studios. We are a collective formed, inspired by astronomy, light and spirituality. We do lots of different events, including pop-up astronomy sessions where people can take photographs of the moon and make Polaroids out of them. We were formed in 2014, following a MA in Art and Science, and we are particularly interested in showing artists' work which is related to astronomy and light. We also have a gallery in London, which is in the crypt of St John on Bethnal Green, and this is our space. We do lots of different kind of installations as well, and we exhibit artists who have work related to art and science. So this is a clip sculpture that we showed at the Green Man Festival in 2017. This is a clip sculpture that we showed at Vivid Projects in Birmingham in 2017. And this is our most recent installation, which is called Phases, and it showed different phases over the course of 4 months, and each projection showed the moon as it was in the sky at that time. So we're really interested in making connections to what is happening in the sky at the moment. And we're really inspired by by all of the different works within the Museum of Freemasonry. We've also been commissioned by Arts Council England as part of the coronavirus emergency funds, and have done quite a few online events, including On Ancient Earth, which is with the Earth Sanctuary in the Northern Territory of Australia, and that was looking at lots of different artists from all over the world, and also Aboriginal art related to the night sky. So today in the seminar, Jaya Ramchandani will take us through the journey of co-creating 2 festivals, the Story of Light 2015, which I was lucky enough to be part of, and the Story of Space 2017. And through this, we'll learn how this led to her to now experiment with a lifelong learning program called We Learn, We Grow. And through this seminar, we will engage with some questions that rocked her world. Jaya Ramchandani is an educator, researcher, entrepreneur, and curator. She designs and facilitates unconventional learning experiences for the individual and the collective. She is driven by a desire to bring amazing artists, scientists, philosophers, and educators to everyone else who is looking forward to learn and grow to make our worlds a little better. So I'm going to pass over to you now, Jaya.
Thank you so much, Mel. And I was telling her earlier, I'm really happy to be here and to be asked to do this, because it gave me a chance to kind of reflect on my own journey through the last, I think, 6 years now. So since we're quite a small group, maybe could I just take a minute to hear from where everybody is in from? So I've already spoken to Mel, Louisa, and Rebecca, and maybe Ellie, and then you can shout out the next person, and then since we are 10, we can make it more interactive.
Hello, sorry, I was just getting very warm. I'm in Kent in the UK.
In the UK, hi.
Yeah, hi. And yeah, I've just graduated from an MA in the summer, so just easing my way in to the arts world. Great. With careers and things, yeah.
Maybe you can just call out the next name.
Yeah, Holly.
Hi there. Hi, my name's Holly. I'm in Norfolk, in Norwich in Norfolk. Sorry. And yeah, I'm just starting my first year of my MA, but really interested in some of ideas of micro and macro and bacteria and fungus and things, but also how that relates to like the stars and things. And so I did Mel's course and the Lumen printing course as well, which was really inspiring.
Hi. Yeah, I'm in North Yorkshire in the UK, and I'm a cyanotype artist. I make botanical cyanotype prints.
Great, beautiful.
I don't know who's next now. Rebecca? I think Rebecca's next on my list.
Hello. Hi, I'm Rebecca from Lumen. I'm an artist and researcher, and I'm currently looking at artificial sky glow.
Beautiful. Maybe Lisa?
Who hasn't gone? Julie.
Okay, Julie.
Yes, I'm working in the background, so I'm trying to be subtle.
No worries.
I'm an artist. So I'm based in London, and working with astronomical data. And I've worked with Lumen a few times as well. So yeah, nice to be here.
Hi there. Sorry, I'm late. I'm a photographer. Looking at elements of kind of the cosmic in the everyday, and then also sound, like cosmic sounds. That's what I'm kind of exploring at the moment through drawing. So kind of the images related to audio, how the image relates to audio.
Yeah.
So looking at those things currently.
Cool. And I guess last is Amina.
Hello, I'm Amina. I'm a photography student based in London, final year, and my project is around light in the city and spirituality. So I came across Lumen in my research, and that's how I found this seminar.
Wow. Nice to meet you all. And I think, Lisa, you've introduced yourself in the chat. And do you want to add anything? You're on mute.
Unmute. Okay, there we go. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm also trying to work in the background, so I might be a little bit quiet while we do this. But I'm an artist and sculptor, and I'm interested in astronomy and light and physics. And I also did an MA in art and science at Central St. Martin's.
Okay, awesome. So we're almost exclusively an artist group. Great. So I guess I asked because we're a small group, and then I know like what areas to focus a little bit more on. So I am Jaya, and I studied physics and then astronomy, and I studied physics in India and Mumbai, and then I went to the Netherlands to study astronomy, and I came back to India in 2012 and got together with a group of friends to curate the first festival called The Story of Light. And today I'll kind of just take you through this journey of the last 6 years. The first question I started to think about when I was in the Netherlands was, why isn't interdisciplinary a thing? Because around the time when I was studying astronomy, my father had passed away. So it was kind of like this situation where I'm going really deep into cosmology and why does the universe exist, and all of these ways of processing information, as well as thinking about death and starting to read about Buddhism to understand something like death. And for me, these two worlds weren't in conflict. I could hold them together. And I couldn't understand why other people couldn't hold them together. So this was a really heavy question weighing on me for quite a few years on why isn't interdisciplinary a thing? What I didn't know that my real question was, why isn't decolonization a thing? And I just recently saw this on Instagram, and it kind of said it all. When they speak, it's scientific. When we speak, it's unscientific. When they speak, it's universal. When we speak, it's specific. And anyway, I just read this yesterday, and I've been only like on the decolonizing, I don't know, bandwagon for a few years. But back in 2015, I was still thinking that it's about people, exchanging perspectives, which it still is. So I got together with a bunch of friends and we said, okay, let's organize a festival to get artists, scientists, and educators together on one platform and exchange perspectives. 2015 was the International Year of Light, so we decided to use that as a platform or as a vehicle to launch this festival. And we started to curate installations, performances, workshops. When I say we are a big bunch of people. All this festival was completely volunteer run, so it was also quite chaotic. We're just doing things on the fly. None of us had a lot of curatorial background, but just a lot of, let's say, heart and passion into getting this ball rolling. So to give you an example of some of the pieces, I've just selected a few. This one have you all heard of like cosmic rays? Maybe you can thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, alpha particles, beta particles. So sometimes you just hear these words, there are cosmic rays coming through the atmosphere and through the earth, but they're really hard to detect. And Alejandro made a small cloud chamber, and it's essentially just a mixture of isopropyl alcohol and dry ice. But when a cosmic ray is passing through, you see it as a streak. Another piece we curated was Andrej and Maria. They wanted to kind of like focus on more the idea of DNA and getting. This is 2015, so I think maybe CRISPR is just starting to, boom then, and getting this whole idea of genetics into public consciousness. And they did this by taking the micro world and then blowing it up on big buildings inside the city of Panjim in Goa in India, where we had this festival. Another one of my favorites, really, really simple to execute, and for everybody who likes astronomy. Simply, this artist, Daniela De Paulus from the Netherlands, I think she's Italian but based in the Netherlands, invited people to submit photographs. So we posted our photographs, and she took the photographs and sent it from a telescope in Italy, bounced it off the moon, and received it in the Netherlands. And then she got the photographs back and then mailed it back to everyone with the noise. So that was really, really beautiful to have your own picture bounced off. That's my partner there. That's the photograph that I sent, and we collected them and then posted it to everybody. This one has more to do with quantum physics, and this is Deshna's interpretation of the observer effect, or to observe is to change. Very simple piece of work, like you're just tracing your shadow, but if you try it anytime, maybe after this call, and just put your flashlight or put like your phone torch and try to trace your shadow, you'll figure out what's really happening. I won't spoil it for you. That's Jaden and Melanie, and they made the world's largest cyanotype at that time, and then I think they broke the record again just a few months later. But it was really fun and really great to do something at this scale. Um, we also invited the National Institute of Design, so that's the main design school or one of the biggest design schools here in India. They ran a course called The Story of Light, and their students produced a couple of works that were then brought to the festival. This one was essentially you touch it and the temperature changes the color. So it was a playful piece, and this one was called Turning Heads, but it was like the Arctic poppy, and when you take how the Arctic poppy follows the sun. So it was made by the new media team. But what was really nice was to set up this collaboration with the National Institute of Design, which also followed through to the next festival. And a lot of the students there also became like volunteers and interns in our festival. This is another one that I really enjoyed. It's called Traffic. And Sharat, he built antennas. So the antenna is out of this room, like on the side. And what it did was it tracked all the planes over Goa at the time and then projected it on a screen. So pretty easy actually to do. And I don't know if it's legal yet, and we never found out, but if you ever want to know anything about antenna building through the whole radio wave range, then Sharat's the guy. And this I live in Japan now, so I'm quite in touch with Suneo, and he built a rainbow hut. Um, he just uses water and mirrors, and he can basically project any rainbow anywhere. And recently, we've also been helping him build a dual axis tracker, like how you have for solar panels, to now do a 360-degree rainbow that's always there. Because right now, here, the mirrors were manually adjusted as the sun moved its position around the sky. Um, so that was 2015. Then we got together as a group to kind of digest what is it that we were really doing. And we made this kind of a map. It's like a little bit of a bubbly map. So we know that we're telling stories from science, culture, art, and philosophy. There was a learning angle to everything, right from the story of light. So on our website, for example, at the end of every page description, we had a little know more or learn more section. We tried to write some articles around the themes of what we were presenting. But it only like really we started to focus on it more in 2017 when we were going to have our next festival. So the first festival we were more branded as an art and science festival, while the next festival we started using the language of interdisciplinary informal learning festival. So it had elements of stories, had elements of 21st century learnings, had we did as the story of didn't want to constrict ourselves to only public festivals, but also get into workshops and residencies and maybe some research programs. And we knew the kind of the communities we were reaching. So researchers, educators, artists and designers, lots of students, policy makers, because the festivals were public in nature. We got to interact with the government a lot. Lots of writers and poets, and then just a big category called public. The next big question being contemplated was: is a festival a site for informal learning? So about 15,000 people came for the story of light. It became quite big because of its public nature. And we wanted to see, okay, but are people actually learning anything, or is it just entertainment? Is any change happening, or is no change happening? So again, the same way as we did the first time, we banded together the second time. It's still volunteer run, so that means everybody takes out some time from their life, maybe 3 to 6 months, comes together to do this. Who is everybody? This time, everybody is, we made a bigger team, like a bigger core team, a general circle. And then there are about maybe 30 to 50 volunteers over and above this core team. And we in the story of light, our themes within light were light and life, seeing and perceiving, light and technology and our universe, so more sciencey. And in the story of space, we wanted to like balance it out a little bit more between science, philosophy, culture, and society. Um, so we picked the themes of politics, physics, philosophy, and perception of space. And we went quite into what are we doing if we say it is an interdisciplinary informal learning festival. So really mapping out like what are people learning in terms of awareness, understanding, and knowledge, 21st century skills. So this framework here is the generic learning outcomes by the Arts Council, in fact. And we found that most suitable for these kind of informal learning initiatives to map the impact of what was going on. And we kind of liked their categories because they also had inspiration, enjoyment, and creativity as a category rather than just, skills and knowledge. We also went a little bit more deeper into defining our target audience. So we saw from the first festival, a lot of families were coming, a lot of students and teachers were coming. And we also realized that the participants and the teams are themselves a target audience because Story of Light spawned a lot of collaborations and a lot of relationships that are still going strong right now. And the team and volunteers, they kind of experience this whole new way of working and being and focusing and just the non-hierarchical structure. So for them, like I guess their greatest takeaway was this just new ways of living and working and being and new content to think about. Again, we spread it around in Panjim City like the first time, but not as public locations because there was another festival just before us, so we got a little bit unlucky there. But the program, again, similar public installations, workshops. We also included more talks, more panels, and more live experiences and performances. So if Story of Light had about 45 projects, Story of Space had about 70 projects. So we went bigger in scale, but not necessarily much bigger in budget. So pros and cons. To showcase some of the projects from the Story of Space. So now you'll start to see maybe a little bit less of science, but because my background is science, maybe the ones I've selected will be more sciencey. But this one was one of my also favorite. It was focusing on the space women occupy in society. And they were performers, videographer, and a photographer, kind of like coming together to research stories and then present them with a dance as well as photography pieces. Um, Someone said that they were into sound and cosmic data. So, what Alex and Jackie did essentially was oh, I did not put the picture of the resonance, but I don't know if you'll know those Clandi plates. So, how every element has its own resonance spectra. Um, they mapped, they assigned a sound to and a visual to every element. And then they had kind of like with the Kinect set up an installation. So you have like the sun And then based on the distance that you're standing from the sun, you have different elements inside the sun. So you first went through a journey learning the sound of an element, so the sound of hydrogen or the sound of helium. And then you stood in the sun to see, okay, oh, helium's in the center and hydrogen is on the side. So this was kind of like really, and they were students, master students from a university in the States. And yeah, I thought it was pretty fantastic. This is the acoustic history of Goan heritage. So what Akash and Snehal did was they went and mapped about 30 sites in Goa, 30 historical sites in Goa through the acoustic signature, and then brought that spatially into an exhibition space where you navigated again the space and then could hear the sound of that site. We also curated an escape room. This was a juggler meeting an educator, and they created an escape room called Ex Nihilo, so making space out of nothing. And there's a video that I can link you all to later because I don't know, they combine a lot of different ideas from science as well as philosophy. They used lasers, they used trick smoke machines, and we got a really nice building for it, like an old abandoned house, so we could really basically escape room out of it. On the politics of space, Craig and Robin, they came to Goa, they had a workshop, they interviewed people about their stories and then projected their stories of migration onto what you see here is Kala Academy. It's one of the main cultural centers in Goa. This was our opening piece. Robin Meyer, with an amazing generous grant from Pro Helvetia, we managed to like buy a meteorite, which was I think pegged at maybe just a little under 4 billion years old. And he fashioned a musical instrument out of it that he then played to, he collaborated with a composer called Santiago that he then played to, if you'll know the Koro satellite, so it takes exoplanetary data, and that data was given to Santiago, who then made it more musical than just only listening to what mostly sounds like noise. And then we connected to a local brass band who then played the piece, and then people could also interact with the meteorite, which was kept on exhibition for the rest of the duration of the festival. This one, it's a 10-room installation on the journey of a star. So maybe I'm just going to stop share, start share again, share computer sound, and play the video. So essentially they are taking you through the birth of the stars, to the different stages. This what you see here is a neutron star stage. What's on the screen here right now is demonstrating But I think this installation was the scale of a festival in itself. So it was very, very nice and challenging to produce, and we also acquired a new site for it. I think Story of has also been pretty successful in unlocking sites in Goa. So we would just be pretty shameless about going up to the government and say, hey, this building, nobody's using it. Can we have it for this? And then they would say, sure, after like making us wait for a really long time, but give it anyway. So that was, I would say, one of the best parts of this whole experience was actually interacting with the government. Another piece, so this was a workshop called Clean Language. So they also used sound to strike different emotions within us. So I really don't have words to describe this work, except for I really hope you get to experience Clean Language, because it was just eerie, like how sounds and words just set in a space evokes all kinds of emotions inside you. We also had in the workshop space Pedro doing a citizen science lab. This was more practitioner one, where a lot of like artists and designers, in fact, attended to figure out how astronomy data can be used both artistically as well as for citizen science. And for Story of Space, we also made a film curation. So that's on the showcase bit. So the second question was, are festivals a site for learning? And to that, we did, at the time of Story of Space, we did an evaluation study. And we found out from that evaluation study, roughly put, that the people who were benefiting the most from these experiences was the participants and team and volunteers, in terms of this like big changes. So if the initial goal was, multi-perspective thinking or making interdependence visible, I'd say visitors coming through one or two or three or four pieces, their lives weren't changing very dramatically, but the participants and the teams, people who had more time to kind of absorb all the information and have a lot of dialogue and had do a lot of reflection and really like get into it, their lives were changing dramatically. In the meantime, in about after the Story of Space, about 2018, I started to work at a school called UWC Isaac Japan. It's a network. The UWCs are a network of about, like, I think 20 schools now all over the world. And they take people from many different nationalities. So in my school, we had 80 different nationalities. And they said, like, live together for 2 years and see what happens, and then get a high school education along with it. It's quite an interesting way to spend 2 years. Teaching was my partner's idea. She said, you talk so much about education and learning, why don't you like see what schools are doing? And through this 2 years, I had a lot of like time to think about, what is it that we really need to learn. It was also like the realization that schools and universities are mostly, giving us the skills or the knowledge or the spaces or the scaffolding to meet professional needs or economic needs or financial needs, but not really our personal and social needs, how to communicate better or how to, manage power. And the kind of pedagogies that are most suited to this is not so much come in like, watch a film, but more self-directed, transformative kind of journey-based learning. So the latest kind of experiment is to set up like a lifelong learning community to meet these personal and social needs through courses, conversations, and kind of building a community slowly around it. The what, I think the curation is going to happen seasonally, and for this season of what looks like a school year, because I just came out of a school, it's kind of rolling from all the concepts I was exposed to at the UWC of, identity, diversity, peace, conflict, power, governance. I think for a lot of people from an art space, these are not kind of, new topics, or you're having a lot of discussions. But say if you're somebody maybe like me from a very science space, there's almost and even maybe from India, because there's no deviation. Like you're in a path and you're following the path, and there's almost no way to have conversations unless you're like, completely breaking some walls down or something like that. So it's driven out of this desire to kind of make more spaces for people to talk about and learn with others as a key thing about constructive communication, how to resolve conflicts, how to develop cosmological thinking, which I think just makes you such a peaceful human being, as well as, I don't know, sensitivity to patterns that connect, more resilience. And there was this really like interesting realization that I had. I thought that when I was studying astronomy and uh, contemplative practice at the same time, that was my aha moment. And Story of Light was like, oh, let's like expose everybody to concepts of astronomy and physics and wave particle duality, as well as some yoga and meditation practice, and they will have the same aha moments, and they'll become really like both and people, and be able to see the interdependence in everything. But now I know that that was not what was going on with me back then. And what was going on with me back then was some kind of like what researchers describe as a transformative learning process. And there are some key ideas to what makes transformation happen, like willingness to learn. So, how I enter the discourse. I usually start off with a disorienting dilemma myself. Um, Strong relationships to dialogue with, people to reflect with, as well as some kind of framework or scaffolding through this whole process. So I guess that's what's really going on at We Learn, We Grow, is trying to make these conditions for others. Uh, right now, it's spread over kind of two media. One is this Medium blog where I'm listing the courses, and another is a Mighty Network. I don't know if you're familiar with Mighty Networks, but basically it's just a place. Usually, sometimes if you do a course, you do the course and you leave, but there's no way to connect with others. So this helps you connect with others, but it's not Facebook or it's not any of those other too much cluttered platforms. But everybody here is pretty focused on wanting to learn a specific number of things in this personal and social growth space. Cool. I think that's it. These are some kinds of courses that we curate or that I'm curating right now on understanding violence. He carries an ex-diplomat. I finally kind of put all my 10 years of thinking about decolonization and knowing into a course. Dasha is doing a course on using autoethnography as a method to find yourself. Um, Simrit's doing a course on bringing permaculture inside. This is a more like project-based course, so more practical, where you actually do something in your space. And an upcoming course is relearning our connection with nature. And Val is just kind of like, he's a biophilic designer and architect, and he's thought of a lot of ways to kind of instigate these transformative experiences through some reflection exercises. And I think that's it. Questions? I don't know if I went super over or.
Thank you. That was amazing, Jaya. Absolutely incredible. So I have a question just to start off. So when you were studying astronomy and physics and science, what led you into curating the festivals?
I think it was this. So I already knew when I was doing my master's that I was not going to do a PhD. I did it slightly later. So I worked in Mumbai for about 5 years, and then I went when I was 27. And when I was leaving my job to go abroad to study, I knew that I didn't want. I was going to do something in education, but I didn't know what in education. So I thought, oh, might as well study astronomy because I'm really passionate about it. And I'll get into education by being in education rather than going and studying about education. Like rather than doing a master's in education or multimedia or something, I should go and learn something. And so I guess that interest in creating some kind of a learning experience was very present. And what the way it manifested into a festival is really just chance and serendipity. And I would say it's a lot to do with Nash, who created the first festival with me. It was just we are sitting in his house and we are talking, and a bunch of us say, oh, let's make a digestive system out of the house. And then we make the whole house into a digestive system and invite the neighbors and the other villagers to come into the house, and everybody really enjoys it as an experience. And then we say, oh, why don't we just take this and blow it up? But we didn't want to blow it up so much because then it just got blown up. And all the curating skills kind of we had to learn along the way. So it wasn't really, I think the second festival we had a little bit more space to think about what exactly are we curating, while the first festival we were more rolling. Yeah.
We have a comment from Holly who says, so inspiring. You've created so many wonderful experiences. And Julie says, fascinating work. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, you can either turn your camera on or you can write in the chat and we'll read the questions from there. Jill says, the interactive experiences look amazing. Fascinating talk. Thank you. I have another question.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
What are your plans for future festivals, or are you focusing now on We Learn, We Grow?
So we also have the story of mind coming up. Like it should have been there this Jan, but because of Corona, we just started having our meetings to talk about it and get everything activated last year, and then Corona hit, and then we stopped all the discussions. So now we're just in limbo. We're just going to wait it out because most of the team is not so much an online team. We did one online program with Pro Helvetia again. It's called The Mind of Nature. So it's a part of the story of mind as a theme. And yeah, we'll just wait. Waiting is the answer.
Thank you. Oh, I think Louise might have a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I imagine the responses from the audience are really inspiring. Have you had any that kind of jump out at you that make you keep wanting to do these types of festivals? Any kind of audience responses to the works?
Oh yeah, so many. Like, I think a lot of I think everything was very new for everybody. So also we were India's first art science festival, and we have like a big, I don't know whether to say following or what it's called, but people are always asking when is the next one, and then sometimes it's almost just embarrassing to say like, hey, we are all volunteers, or because fundraising is such a like I almost want to say like, hey, why don't you raise all the funds and then we'll do the next one. But yeah, I don't know, there's so many like different ways in which it's like, because there are so many pieces, there are many different ways it's touched different people. Yeah,
I bet. And there might still, I'm sure there are still lots of people who think back to experience of one of the pieces, and maybe it really changed the direction of their thinking or their career or their art practice or anything.
I've heard more stories from like the volunteers, like especially rethinking the direction of your career, and from like say say some of the early volunteers have even gone to like make their own projects. So like like learn from this project and then make their own project. And a lot of the participants in the first festival came in the team of the second festival, and a lot of the visitors of the first festival became participants of the second festival. So those kind of like loops kept happening.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like it's easy to keep going if I would say like, maybe if I don't know, out here we don't have so many fundraising avenues, so not so many grants. And I totally understand, because even in this NGO space, like there are other priorities, because it's also what kind of audience are you serving. We are also quite an English speaking audience who's making this festival. And for like different, like say CSR initiatives, what they call like corporate social responsibility, of course, like if you compare one audience to another audience, you're going to give it to the more perceived need audience, not necessarily the future growth vision kind of audience. And then the other avenue is companies. But the people who are in the team, we are not very savvy. We don't talk that talk. And what we realized also from the first two festivals is that you have to talk a certain talk to get a certain kind of money, to do more of what you want to do. Or we can keep doing it in this way, but then we all have to have enough energy. And that takes time to grow again.
Yeah, completely.
I hope that answers your question. But
we have quite a few questions as well. So one of them was, how big was the cyanotype? So I can.
That's for you, Mel.
Yeah, that was 10 by 6 meters. And then we have a question from Yvette, who said, was it intentional to keep it experimental and away from the traditional gallery-like exhibitions, such as prints on the wall?
Actually, we didn't really know the traditional gallery-like exhibitions. That was a later learning of what is this world that we've entered. And for me, the biggest joke was like one of like my reasons to. It was about making things accessible. Like making all this science knowledge accessible. Because really, my mind was blown studying astronomy. It was just blown. And then I was like, why doesn't everybody know this? And the reason why everybody doesn't know some stuff is because the language is so inaccessible. So then the premise was, oh, artists and designers make things so amazing. They create great metaphors, they make things beautiful, they have great aesthetics, and it's a way for the public then to know these stories. But then the artists were like in a similar kind of situation as scientists, which are like they were also inaccessible in a way, like in terms of the language being very cliquey, or very like you need to know the language and you need to know the world. So I would say it took a few years to get to know what is this world that we've entered in the first place of art and design, and what does a curator really do. When I'm talking to another curator, they're not looking at me as a curator, they're looking at me as a Dumbo. So getting that, just getting upskilled, I guess, took a while. But so the good thing is we stayed away from it because we didn't know it. I'm almost scared now.
Oh, we've got another question from Lisa, who says, I was wondering how people reacted to the subjects of space and astronomy. Did it bring people together?
Yeah, always. Like there was a lot of space influence because a lot of my science network is astronomy. Uh, so I think also, I don't know, in Indians love space. I don't know, everybody loves space, right? Uh, so but bring people together in what way? Is there like a part two of that? From Lisa? No, you're on
You're
mute.
on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering because I was wondering what the interest level is, amongst the groups that you were running the festivals with. Is it something that people really approach with a lot of enthusiasm? When you say space, do you get a lot of people to show up, or is it something people go, oh, that'll be kind of intimidating? Like you were talking about, I don't understand the physics, or I'll be out of my depth here, but perhaps that's what what you were trying to do, is bring some of these subjects, make it more accessible for people. So something happened in the presentation of how you were doing things that made people want to learn, or did they come there already with a lot of interest?
I think that performance of Evolution of the Stars, which was like this immersive theater 10-piece thing, so it was going by a busload. So a bus would come and take, all the buses were full all the time. And we could only have so many performances because we only had so much money because of the rental of all the equipment. Or like even say this artist from Brighton, Nick, he was doing something called Cycle the Solar System. So he made the solar system to scale at in Panjim. So he put all the different planets, etc. And he and an astronomer, Megan Argo, they cycled the solar system. That's what it was called, cycle the solar system. So we rented bikes. So I think because none of it was all quite interactive and experiential, and something was happening, and you're like either like touching real scientists, or you're like interacting quite closely with the concept, or more experientially with the concept. I would say that worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun way to do things.
Yeah, it was so nice. Like I would do all of that with my students. Like say when I was teaching in a school, if I had like the bandwidth and the budgets and the as much as possible, just get them to create stuff. Like we had all these wild ideas when you're thinking about light, of creating all these masks like seeing as an owl sees, and you can actually do so much with technology. So I'd say the more experiential, the better.
Yeah, great to get people really physically involved, like the idea between the space between the planets, to actually, it sounds like you were having people kind of move through those distances, so they understand how physically, like through their own bodies, how distant some of the planets are. It's something you can experience. But again, maybe the playground at the school is not big enough, to do some of those things. But it's great to get people involved physically. So it's really lovely that you were able to do that.
Even Melanie's cyanotype piece, right? Like when everybody's actually like lying down on the cyanotype and all, you just really you get it, then. You don't have to talk about it, you just get it.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel the sunlight hitting your body, so you understand what's happening underneath you. Yeah. Lovely.
Cool.
Do we have any more questions, anyone? Or any more comments?
Sorry, would you be doing another Story of Light, do you think? Another festival?
of light, no, but mind is up as the next theme. Yeah, because the whole thing was like this, science meets philosophy eventually. So that's why it was light, space, and mind.
Is mind the final one then?
Yeah, we had imagined it only in a trilogy and then thought, okay, after that we do something else. And also, like I said, because we are volunteer run, it's not a stable enterprise, or it's not a financially sustainable enterprise. It's a come and go. It's a playground. Yeah. We've been thinking about, okay, like, should we do something else? But it's still in the air about that.
Well, thank you so much.
You can do a story of light, and I can give you all the knowledge of everything I learned so far.
That would be amazing.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.